And the effect of this is that you now have in the regions, you can call it for whatever reason the failure of national parties, you can say it's the personalities not being able to create a uniform impact across the country, the impact of caste. There could be various reasons of analysis, but the hard reality is you have now the balance of power has shifted in favor of the regional parties. It's not necessarily a bad indication. It's not that all regional parties are bad in governance. Some of them have demonstrated very positive agendas. Some of them have changed the face of their state, or at least attempted effectively to change them. And you now have coalitions being led at the central level. We don't have a two-party system, but we are gradually moving towards a two-coalition system. Whether we like it or not, we can't wish it away. There are occasionally efforts made to form a third coalition. The second impact which has been there besides the emergence of these parties is that when I use the word in some of these cases, and I do believe that the left parties and my party, the BJP, are still amongst the structured parties which survive in India. In fact, too much democracy in our parties is quoted as a disadvantage. If you have galaxy of 5, 7, 8 leaders, who's your number one in the other party? The family decides who's going to be the next generation. How can merit and talent and capacity and experience decide all this? So even mindsets have changed when television anchors ask you these questions. The second impact has been that a large number of parties, earlier we used to refer to one, but today a large number of parties, the impact of dynasty is gaining. Now this is leading to two situations. I have never a doubt in my mind that this prevents excessive merit from entering public life. You can either decide by an inheritance or you can choose your CEO. Either the family is here, manages your business, or your CEO can be selected from the market on basis of merit. There's always a conflict between the two. Ordinarily, there would be a conflict. And therefore, the impact of all this has been, and the impact of each one of these parties is, it's as good as the political impact that the member of the dynasty at a given point of time will have. And states after states, we think rather than policy, rather than program, rather than good governance, let's see how the next member of the family will run it. Our most sensitive state is Jammu and Kashmir. Either of the two combinations available, it's only going to be how the next member of the generation will run it. Now, obviously, this is going to have an impact on governance. How do we then tackle this challenge? So let's be very clear, we are not being able, at least today, to wish coalitions away. They are a reality. And I don't think any one of us can claim the potential to change this framework of politics overnight. Unless there is at some stage a huge upsurge against this. And these upsurges also at times are momentary. There may be an anti-family mood in an X state today. In the next election, the same may be back. I think having realized this, the best under the circumstances, as I said, is the two-coalition route. Now this two-coalition route, that there are two coalitions rather than two political parties. We don't have a two-party system, we have a two-coalition system. Now there is a certain amount of politics involved because a third coalition also comes up. It has a limited strength, confined to a few states. The core of that third coalition is always the left. And the left gives birth to it because of its own ideological positions. If the left were ever to become weaker, then the whole possibility of the two coalition route in India is going to be strengthened. Now, how these coalitions work will essentially depend on two political factors. I'm not on governance or administrative factors at the moment. The first is, at the core of the coalition, the central core of the coalition can only be two parties, each leading the coalition. The Congress party leads the coalition, the BJP leads the coalition. You can't have unnatural coalitions as you had from 96 to 98 or in the early 90s, where the size of the ruling party is 1/10 of Indian Parliament, and somebody supports them from outside, and those 50 or 60 people are the entire strength of Parliament. I remember my colleague, no more, Mr. Mahajan, in Parliament narrated a very interesting incident during that phase. He said we all went to China. In a delegation, the law minister was Mr. Khalap, he led us. So he was the minister leading it. I was introduced as the opposition representative. So I told them I represent the largest party in Parliament. So they said, you must be in government. He says, no, I'm in opposition. But the leader, Mr. Khalap, represents the smallest party in Parliament, only one member. So these are unnatural coalitions. So these ordinarily won't be the rule. So you'll have two major coalitions. So at the core, the central party has to be strong. What is happening today, which has legitimately made you, understandably made you fed up with coalitions, is that the core itself has become a coalition. I don't know between the agenda of those in actual governance and those who are in a powerful advisory position, the agendas are much in common. So if the core itself becomes a coalition, then the implementation of any agenda itself is difficult. The second, the leader of the coalition has to be a tall political leader of experience. This entire experiment of somebody owning a company and a CEO running a company can apply to the corporate world. It doesn't apply to governments. The leader of the government has to be the leader of the coalition. It's only then that the impact of his footprints on every activity of the government takes place. Now, once you've achieved this, and you have a tall leader, I think politics itself needs its own disciplining. And after the recent controversies in which some members of the coalitions have got into, perhaps it may be a lesson for future. I felt through an honest introspection of what went wrong. Now, if we pick up some of the most successful sectors of Indian economy in the last 20 odd years, I think National Highways was a successful program. The telecom was a success story. The real estate sector started booming. The auto sector started booming. Fortunately, the auto sector is somewhat safe.